Hi, everybody. We're going to be talking about reflecting a point in the coordinate plane, and that is in lesson 8.5. And we're going to be doing examples 3 and 4 today. We actually already did examples 1 and 2. So I'm going to give you a little bit quick example here. So they're saying in the key idea is reflecting a point in the coordinate plane. It sounds a little tricky, but you'll understand it a little bit better. So it says to reflect a point in the x-axis, you use the same x-coordinate and take the opposite of the y-coordinate. So say they gave you the example 3, 4. If they ask you to reflect a point in the x-axis, that's this one. They're asking you to use the same x-coordinate, so that means you're going to keep x the same, and they're asking you to take the opposite of the y-coordinate. So they're asking you to change the opposite. So they're just making it -4, okay? So if I go back and I erase so that you can see what I'm doing up here, all right, and I'm actually going to change the color. We'll do it over here. All right, so if it says, we're on the second bullet, if it says to reflect a point, so let's do it over again, 3, 4. It's actually a little bit too light. Let's do red. All right, so 3, 4, and it says use the same y coordinate. So this is going to stay the same. So we're going to do my ordered pairs. And there's my y coordinate staying the same, but it says to take the opposite of the x coordinate. So that means that this 3 is now going to be a -3. And then this is your answer for the second bullet. This is your answer for the first bullet. Okay, so I'm going to actually just erase all this, because if I hit the X button over there, it just it wipes out that whole little part. So I'm going to erase this. I got to find a better way to erase. Okay, that way we can go. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide. I wonder if I go on to the next slide if it erases it. All right, so let's watch this video. Let's see how we do. Okay, so that is our example that we usually do in class. And now we're going to do the try-its together. So make sure that you have your paper and your pencil, and make sure you know, you write down example 3 and write down try-its 9 through 11. If you ever need to pause on the video, you can. All right, so it looks like some of my, oh, I wanted the eraser, I didn't want the marker. Let's just erase more of this because I think it's still there. Okay. All right, so we're going to do the first one together. We're going to do 3. I actually going to do all these together. And I think this is number 9. I apologize. Yeah, this is number 9. Okay, so for number 9, you're going to write for 9A, you're going to write 3, -2. And for A, it says the reflection is in the x-axis. So you want to keep your x the same, but you want to change, you can do the opposite of your y-axis. So that means it's going to be +2. So if you type that in, it should be correct. Okay, and that's for A. But now, if we change that, we're still going for B. It's still asking the same question. They want you to go back to the original, so 3 comma negative 2. But this time they want you to do across the y-axis. So that means you're keeping this the same. So negative 2 is staying the same. This is changing. So that means your x is always the opposite. So if this was positive, this is going to be negative. So let's see if we type it in there. We'll do our arrow. So when we're going across the x-axis, I believe we said 3 and then 2. And then across the y-axis, we're saying negative 3 and we're saying negative 2. All right, so let's see. We're going to check it. Woohoo! We are correct. All right, so I'm going to erase this. And while I'm erasing this, get ready. Take a look at number 10 and see if you can do it on your own while I'm erasing. If you can get to the question. If not, don't worry about it. I know everyone's on the same screen as I am. Okay, so oops, I don't know why it does that. All right, I got to find a different way of this working out. It keeps on switching. All right, so we'll go to the arrow. We're going to go to number 10. And this time now, we have, okay, we have 4 comma 0. So 4 comma 0. And it says that we are going the reflection of 4 comma 0 in the x-axis. So x-axis means our x is going to stay the same. Our y is going to be finding the opposite. All right, so now we're going to have our 4 the same. Our 0 is going to be opposite, but our 0 is really just 0. So our answer is 4 comma 0. Okay, and then if we do it again for B, so this is for A, this is for B. For B, 4 comma 0, it's going to be the reflection of 4 comma 0 in the y-axis, and that means that your y is staying the same, so your x is changing. So that means it's going to be negative 4 comma 0. So let's see how that goes. So I'm going to do my arrow. So we're going to say 4 and 0, and we're going to say negative 4 and 0. And then we're going to hit check, and there we go. All right, so I'm going to erase again. All right, so we are now going to number 11. So for number 11, we have negative 5 comma 1.5. All right, so we are going to the reflection of negative 5, 1.5 in the x-axis. So try to think to yourself, which one are we changing? So we're going to do the reflection of the x-axis. If you said we're changing the y-axis, you are correct. So it's going to be negative 5, comma, negative 1.5. You're doing the opposite. So that was for A. For B, we have negative 5 comma 1.5. And this time it says the reflection is of the y-axis. So think in your head, if we're going to have the reflection in the y-axis, if you said we're doing the opposite of the x-axis, you are correct. So it's 5 comma 1.5. So let's see. We said negative 5 and negative 1.5. And then this is 5 and this is 1.5. And we're going to check it, and we got it right. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to erase this now. Okay, so we are now going to example 4. All right, so I'm going to erase a little bit more here. I don't know why it's still here. All right, and we are going to play example 4, and then I will be able to we'll do our last set of try-its. Let me just erase a couple more of these. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what I do want to share with you is that when you're looking at, when they're asking you to go across and reflect both axes, that's what they're really basically saying. If you notice, you're going, I'll show my little pen here. When you're going here first, okay, and you're going across the x-axis, you are actually going across the x-axis. I don't know if you notice that. That's what they mean. And when you go across the x-axis, your x is staying the same, and your y coordinate is changing because you're no longer at the positive one, you're now at the negative one. So in order to go across both axes, you now already went across the x, you now need to go across the y. So when you go across the y-axis, if you notice, your y's are the same. They're still going to be -1, but your x-axis is now going to change. So your +2 is now -2. So to give you a little shortcut, if you think about it, and I don't know if anyone noticed it already, here's your original 2, 1. If you just do the opposite of both, that's giving you the reflection across both axes. All right, so just keep that in mind when you're doing these. Okay, so we're going to do the tryouts together, and then we'll be all done, and I'll let you go on to your assignment for today. So we are going to do, press start, and we're going to do 12 through 15, and this time we're going to go across both axes. So they start you with 3, 2, and then they say reflect 3, 2 in the x-axis followed by the y-axis. So sometimes they're going to say both of them, but doing it separately. So if they're saying x-axis first, you need to change just the y-axis. Then if it says followed by the y-axis, then you go from this point and just change the y-axis, which means you're only changing the x. And if you remember what I just said before, that your original, when you go down here, it's just the opposite of both. So just be careful because sometimes they want you to separate it. But if they're not asking, you can go directly to changing the opposite of both of them right away. All right, so let's see if I can hit check. There we go. It is all good. So now let's go to number 13. And while I'm erasing it, why don't you try reflecting -1, 2. Okay, so we are now at -1, 2. And they're asking you to reflect in the x-axis followed by the y-axis. So technically, we're just doing the opposite of both. So the opposite of -1 is 1. The opposite of 2 is -2. And let's plug it in. It's going to be 1 and -2. And let's check it out. See how we did. Good job. All right, so I'm going to erase and we're going to go to number 13. So let's see what number 13 is. I'm sorry, that was 13. Let's go to 14. 14 is -4, -3. Okay, so let's write -4, -3. And when they say going across the x-axis and then followed by the y, let's do it one step at a time again, just to practice that way. So we are going across the x-axis first, so the x stays the same. So y is changing. So if y is -3, it's going to be -4, 3. Then it says, so you start here, and then it says to go to the y-axis, which means your y is staying the same, and then your x is changing. So your -4 is now 4. And how to check it is your original, it should be the direct opposite to the last. So these are both negatives, so these should be both positives. So it looks like we did it. So 4, 3. All right, so let's do the last question, number 15. And let me get to my arrow. Number 15. So it's going to be 5, -2.5. Okay, so we have 5, -2.5. And it's going to cross both axes. So why don't we go back and just skip and go right to the opposites and see how we do. So +5 will be -5. and negative 2.5 would be positive 2.5. And then that would be your answer. I hope everyone is pretty good with these. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me. I'm here. And you'll be doing some big idea questions. Have a great day, everybody.